I want to welcome you to this Career Readiness Week webinar, where we're going to find out a little bit more about what's going on in the sports world these days. And we have a very special guest with us today, Parul Khosla, and Professor Art Burke, who teaches in the Sport Management program. My name is Jennifer Lenihan, and I'm the director of the Career Explorations and Arts and Sciences program. We run a course, the Career Explorations and Arts and Sciences course. It's a 1.5 credit course, and it's really meant for sophomores and juniors. We have some sections for seniors, and we are now developing some special sections, including one in sport management, to really help students to better explore careers, to get more prepared, and to work together on it, because everybody's working on this. And networking is important, including networking with alumni, networking with one another as classmates. And in the class, one of the things we focus on a lot is helping to connect you all with alumni. Normally, we try to do that a little bit more in person, but in these circumstances, we're using the tools that we have, we're adapting, and we are reaching out virtually. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We are going to have just an overview of the format here. We're going to talk for about 20 minutes. And then afterwards, we're going to open up for Q&A. While the talk is going on, feel free to use the Q&A portion to write in your questions. So when we get to those last 10 minutes, we'll have Stacy and Nicole. They will help us to manage those questions. If you need to tell us about a technical problem you're having, you just want to make a general comment, you can use the chat area to communicate with the panelists or the host. Stacy is our host today. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Welcome. Oh, and one last point, we are recording today's webinar, so if any of your friends want to see this later, we're going to have it on the Career Explorations and Arts and Sciences website, on the Career Readiness week page where you registered for this, and it's also going to be on the SAS YouTube channel. So, so share it with your friends. So I'm very happy to welcome Parul and Professor Art Burke, who's going to talk with her about some of her experiences. So welcome.
Good, thank you, Jen. Hello, my name is Art Burke, professor in the sport management area, and hopefully a lot of you would be interested in the career explorations class this fall that's going to focus on sport management. My first question, Parul, first of all, I want to tell the people that are listening is that Parul was a student of mine, and she did a great job. And she is really the poster person in my mind that I know for getting a job in sports. She did everything right in terms of multiple internships, networking, just working real hard to achieve her goals. So with that, Parul, let me ask the first question. Why don't you talk a little bit about the time since you left Rutgers. You've done so many things so far, which is pretty remarkable. I'd appreciate if you could talk a little bit about how it all started at Rutgers, being a sport management major, the internships you did, and how that set the stage for you to go on and to accomplish what you've already accomplished.
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everybody. I'm Parul. I'm currently a people acquisition coordinator at Madison Square Garden. But yeah, when I started Rutgers, my path was a little unique, as everyone's is, which I also want to preface this by saying that everybody's path into sports is very unique. Not saying that mine is the right way or the only way to get into sports, but hopefully I can share some advice with all of you. So when I entered Rutgers, I was actually a transfer student as a sophomore. I was in the School of Business, interested in sports, quickly found out about the sports management major, and after some talks with the professors and advisors in the major, I decided to make the switch. I've always been very into sports growing up, and I've always played sports. I've played soccer and tennis as an athlete as well, so I just thought it would be a really great experience to be able to work on the business side of sports, which is what I was truly passionate about. I started off doing a marketing internship with Rutgers Athletics. I started in the spring, so I worked with basketball and men's lacrosse, and I just kind of helped with their game day marketing efforts, handing out promotions on game days and kind of promoting the games on social media and things like that. I also did this internship the following fall of my junior year for the football team as well. In between sophomore year and junior year, I did a summer internship with the New Jersey Jackals in Montclair, New Jersey. They're an independent minor league baseball team. And I kind of served as like a game day intern for them, where we did everything from concessions to selling merchandise to doing on-field promos to running the kids center, doing the scoreboard, everything that basically goes on within a ball game. We kind of got experience to do during that summer, which was great. And then from there, I was able to attend a career fair at Rutgers, which I recommend everybody goes to at any opportunity that they can. And I met a recruiter for the New York Mets, which happens to be my favorite baseball team. And I was very excited about interning with them. So I kept in touch with the recruiter for several months, just kind of emailing on a regular basis, and then got the opportunity to intern for their summer internship program and ultimately received an offer to be a community relations intern for them. So I worked on hosting events for children and veterans and hospitals and all of our community groups to kind of integrate the Mets presence in the community. So we would host events for kids to play catch with the players at Citi Field. We would go to veterans hospitals and do visits with them and all kinds of events around the community. And then from there, I did a game day internship with the Jets in loyalty and rewards. So I worked specifically with season ticket holders for the Jets and their loyalty and incentive program, and kind of helping to fulfill that process on game days. And then my final internship from the long list was with Major League Baseball. I worked with them in their youth programs department. So I helped run the Baseball Tomorrow Fund, which is a grant for youth baseball and softball leagues in underprivileged areas to purchase equipment and refurbish their fields and anything that they might need. And then should I go into post-grad also?
Yeah, I think it would be interesting how you leveraged all the internships into a couple of pretty premium jobs in sports, and then you reached a point where reality hit and you had to rethink a little bit, and then you made a decision to leave New York, and then you came back. So talk about that journey.
Yeah, definitely. So I was definitely very fortunate to get all of these internship opportunities during my undergrad career. Not saying that it was easy. There were definitely all opportunities that I pursued heavily, maybe a little bit aggressively, maybe went out of my way a little bit, which I felt like was necessary to get these opportunities, and which I would definitely recommend that students do, especially in this industry. And then after I graduated from college, I was able to leverage a connection that I had at Major League Baseball to get an assistant position at the NFL. And I worked there as a temporary assistant for a year and a half in their football operations team. And I specifically worked on diversity and inclusion programming. So we were running programs for women that wanted to work in football operations, which is coaching, scouting, officiating, and athletic training. Really fields that are heavily dominated by men at this point in football. And we were really building a pipeline so that we can give all of the 32 clubs candidates for internship level roles in all of those different areas. After that opportunity ended, it was kind of a reality check, as Professor Burke mentioned. I was a temporary employee within the company, and with all temporary employments, there's always the opportunity to be let go or for the assignment to end and things like that. And I think just kind of given how I had had so much success in the industry so far and kind of so young, it was a little bit of a reality check to kind of sit back and say to myself, like, okay, I just have to figure out what's next. I have to try harder. I have to kind of go back a few years when I was trying to get into the industry and kind of really assert myself and push myself into what I want to do to kind of get that next opportunity and progress my career. So after that, I kind of sat down and did some goal setting and figured out kind of what direction I wanted to go in for my career. I assessed my role at the NFL and found that I was really interested in sourcing talent, identifying talent, and placing talent within the league. It was a really gratifying experience for me, and it was something that I truly enjoyed. So I thought that maybe pursuing a career in HR would be a logical next step for me to kind of progress my career and get the experience that I wanted for growth. So I ended up getting another contract role in recruiting for the Walt Disney Company. And they're located out in Burbank, California, in the Los Angeles area. So I actually just packed up my bags and moved to LA just because they asked me to, and they were offering me the opportunity, and I wasn't going to say no. It was exactly what I wanted to do and the experience that I wanted to gain. Although it wasn't technically in sports, it's more on the entertainment side. I thought that this experience would really give me the skill set that I needed to eventually come back into sports, which was a sacrifice that I was willing to make at the time. I spent a whole 6 months out in LA, which I loved. No diss to LA, I loved living there. But I always knew that I was a New Yorker, I was an East Coast girl, I wanted to come back eventually. And kind of sooner than I planned, I got the opportunity to come back and work for the Madison Square Garden company, which has now been renamed to MSG Entertainment and MSG Sports, by the way. But I got the opportunity to come back here and work full-time as a recruiting coordinator with this group, which is ultimately the opportunity that I was looking for at the time, and I work here, which is awesome.
Good, Parul. That's a great journey, actually, and some good decision-making. Let me ask you this, and it's really twofold, because my first question is, what is sort of happening in the world of sports jobs these days? And by these days, I mean pre-coronavirus and what it's like right now. So it's really sort of two phases. Before this happened, where do things sort of stand specifically at MSG? And then where are things now? I assume you're working from home. What kind of opportunities can people look to during the time we're going through right now?
Yeah, definitely. It really varies from what I've seen so far in the industry. Before pre-coronavirus, the sports and entertainment industry is thriving. It's always thriving. Being in recruiting specifically, we always were competing with other companies on offers and getting people to come and join our company instead of another company and stuff like that. It's a very competitive industry. So I would say there has always been a lot of competition, and it has always been very high demand to work at MSG or anywhere really in the sports and entertainment industry. But now during coronavirus time, it's definitely been very different. MSG wasn't necessarily a work from home company at the start of this, so it's definitely taken a minute for the whole company to kind of adjust to a new work from home environment. But I will say that after that adjustment period, this company has done a really great job at working from home specifically. We've proven to really be effective at our jobs from home, almost as effective as we would have been if we were still in the office, which I think is great. And I also think, the management here specifically has done a really good job with kind of leading the situation and staying on top of everything and also making sure that their employees are taken care of. I think that kind of varies from industry to industry and from sport to sport even. I feel like MSG specifically having basketball and hockey kind of put us at a little bit more of an advantage compared to baseball and soccer and football, whose seasons either didn't start yet or had just started. They kind of are not making any revenue right now at the start of their seasons, but for basketball and hockey, we at least had revenue coming in for like 2/3 of the season. And then I'm missing the last part, so I feel like we're maybe in a little bit of a better situation than other sports leagues. or other teams across the industry. But specifically here at MSG, we've committed to paying our venue staff through the end of May, which is really great. And we also set up a relief fund, so employees have been donating money. We've raised, I think, $2.5 million for the relief fund right now, and that money is going to our venues population that we had to let go to help them with financial hardships, which is really awesome. And we also have our student associate program, which is a slight plug because I work on running this program here at MSG. So our student associate program is our internship program that we run in the fall, the spring, and the summer for undergraduate and graduate students. And we've been obviously assessing our summer internship program as well as a lot of other companies across the industry. In our research, we saw that maybe half the companies in the industry just canceled their summer internship. A quarter of them made their internship remote, and another quarter were still undecided at this point. And I'm really happy to say that our company decided to make our summer internship a virtual program, and they are invested in keeping the interns and getting them the experience that they came here for and they signed up for, and are still committed to paying them even during this time, which I think is just kind of remarkable. So as a whole, I think the industry has definitely changed, but specifically here at MSG, I think we've done a really good job of adjusting.
Parul, did your time at Rutgers, both in and out of the classroom, provide a good foundation for you as you went out into the world? Did you feel that as much as you could be, you were prepared?
Yeah, I definitely do. I feel like the sports industry is definitely network-based. So networking is really crucial for getting a job in this industry. However, the professors in the sports management department are very well connected in the industry. I felt like they all held roles at various different organizations, and I thought that was really helpful for me to get advice from them and also to make connections and network that way. And they would always bring in guest speakers that we could always connect with afterwards. That was really helpful specifically for me for my career, and it also gave me a well-rounded view of all the different options I could pursue in sports.
Good. A very good friend of yours, Cassie Petty, is now the director of recruiting at Rutgers football. And we're not surprised because Cassie is very much like Parul in terms of the steps she took to reach success in the sports world. And I know you keep in touch with Cassie. Do you keep in touch with others as well who have reached jobs in the sports industry?
Yeah, definitely. I'm a very big proponent of obviously networking, but also keeping your personal connections close. So I am very proud to have graduated from Rutgers, so I'm very open to network and build and keep my relationships with other Rutgers alumni or current students. And I know Cassie is that way as well. Very happy for her new career. Little shout out to Cassie. I don't know if she's watching. I had told her about this. But yeah, I definitely do stay in touch with other Rutgers alum, and I'm also meeting new ones along the way in my industry, people that maybe graduated before me that I didn't know during my time there, and have been building relationships that way as well all across the industry. And I get messages on LinkedIn all the time from Rutgers students or Rutgers alum, and I always make sure that we're connecting because I think it's very important to stay within your communities.
What kind of advice would you give to current Rutgers students who, would like to get into the sports industry specifically, and also just helpful hints for any students who are looking to begin their careers?
Yeah, I would definitely say to be ambitious. Don't be too ambitious where it's kind of the borderline of being like annoying or pestering somebody. But definitely be ambitious in your career. Go after what you want. The one thing I always tell people is that internships and jobs are not going to come to you. You have to go find them, and you have to make yourself known to the recruiters or whoever is hiring you. I can give examples of what I did when I got my METS internship. I didn't know my recruiter's email address, so I guessed his email a bunch of different times, a bunch of different ways until it eventually worked and I was able to get through to him. That's the kind of thing, kind of small, but it's a little bit unique and something that people don't normally think about. And I think that's definitely what you have to do, especially in this industry, just to get your name out there and just to get noticed, because there's so much competition and so many people that are looking to get the same job as you're trying to get. So it's definitely beneficial to try and go out of your way to get noticed. The other thing I did when I got my internship at MLB is I just saw a flyer for someone in HR at MLB speaking at a labor relations class, which I'm not even part of that major. But after I saw that flyer, I skipped my class, which I don't recommend, but in this case I do. I skipped my class and I went to that class and I listened to his whole presentation, and then afterwards I went up to him with a copy of my resume and introduced myself and told him that I wanted to intern at MLB. And it was kind of perfect timing. They had an internship open that they were looking to fill, and I came in and I interviewed and I got it. But if I had never done that, I never would have gotten that internship or known about it or anything. So it's definitely, you just need to be creative in this industry. You just have to go out of your way and make yourself known, kind of be open to all opportunities that could come your way as a result.
It seems like you've made all the right steps to get to where you want to go. Is there maybe one thing that you didn't do that you would tell students today, make sure you do this?
That's a good question. I mean, I would say to really, I don't know, I would say to maybe always be humble in your career, maybe not expect things to happen to you, as I mentioned before. Not that I necessarily think that I did that, but I definitely think at some point, once I had so much success and I had gotten to such great heights, I kind of assumed that I made it. I thought I was in the industry, I made it to the highest level. I won't really have to work as hard in the future. And I would just say to always keep a level head and stay humble, and because you never know what could happen and you might need to fight your way up again. That's the advice that I would give.
Thanks, Parul.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So thank you. That was really wonderful. Great overview, and it sounds like you've done really interesting things, and great advice. So I want to open it up to the students that we have here to see if anybody has any specific questions for you. So feel free, those of you who are listening in, to use the Q&A area, write in any questions that you might have. I guess while we're waiting, I had one. So you're managing the internship program. I assume you're managing some remote interns now. What specific advice do you have for students to be successful as a remote intern?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That's something that we literally are talking about right now all day. We just got the approval to go virtual with our internship program. So it's definitely been a hot topic for us, and it's definitely going to be something the company has to get used to, because it will be a very different experience, especially for MSG, not being able to go to the arena and see games and concerts and things like that. But I would say really the key is to stay in touch with your supervisor and with your company. I think when you're working remotely, it's very easy to feel a little bit disconnected or even disconnect yourself unintentionally because you're just not there, you're not being seen, you're not in the center of everything. So I would say it would be very important to make sure that you're keeping in touch with your supervisor on a daily basis, I would say, and with your other coworkers, and also making sure that you're using the opportunity to network. It's definitely going to be harder not being physically in the office, but I also think in some ways it could be easier to get a hold of somebody and do kind of a Zoom call with them or something like that, as opposed to scheduling a meeting and going into their office. So I really do want to see our students take advantage of this unique opportunity to network around the company as well.
Sure, that's great advice. I think that's, and it's, I think, something for students to think about, that while it is a struggle for many to make this transition, it's been a struggle for professors, it's been a struggle for students, because it happens so quickly. So we're all adapting, but as we're adapting, we're building some skills. And so, students that are out there, you should talk about those skills when you apply for jobs as well, right? How are you managing your time? How are you reaching out and communicating proactively with your professors? If you practice these things now, you can talk about how they advance later. So it does look like we have a question that's come in here. Stacy, would you like to help us out with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So our question comes from Sebastian. He's asking, when you worked on the Rutgers football team, what was your role?
Yeah, so I was a marketing intern with Rutgers Athletics during the football season. Basically what we did is we managed all of the marketing aspects of the game day. So I would go to every game. We would have to get there way earlier than the game started. We would set up the stadium with whatever marketing promotions we were going to do during the game. So we would do games with fans on the field and stuff like that during timeouts and TV commercial breaks and things like that. We also would give out all the promotional items as fans are walking into the stadium. When you kind of get one of those giveaways, we would be the person that would give them out. We would also give out like the block arm magnets that people can put on their cars and all that good stuff. We had a tent outside the stadium for fans to come and get promotional items and hear about all of our different promos that are going on at the game and at upcoming games and things like that. And we also managed kind of the social media, how we were promoting our promotions and getting more fans and more students to come to the games. Students was a specific priority for us because we were noticing that students weren't attending football games as much as they had in the past. So we were working specifically on projects to try and reach the student population and incentivize them to come to more Rutgers football games. It was a great internship. I would recommend anyone to apply to that goes to Rutgers currently.
That's neat. So I want to pick up on something you said earlier. You talked about when you got into the sport management program, you noticed that a lot of the professors had a lot of connections in the industry. And, but I talked to a lot of students, and they're very hesitant about, how do I approach someone about that, right? I'm not going to just go up to a professor and ask them to help me get a job. So how do you start that relationship? I don't think most people think about networking with their professors. And so maybe if both of you could talk a little bit about how you got together. And I want to mention too that Professor Burke, before he was teaching here, was, I think, for about 20 years, the head of public relations for Sports Illustrated. So, he certainly has a lot of those connections, and you two certainly, seem to have had a great relationship that continues. How did that start? How did you get to know one another?
Yeah, I would say the key is to go to office hours. It's definitely not appropriate probably to go up to your professor during class and ask how to get a job or to make a connection. But I was a very frequent visitor of office hours, I think, for Professor Burke and also for Professor Fink in the program. I spent many hours in that hallway where both of their offices were. But I would say that's a good time to go because the professors are there for you. They're there to help you advance in your career and get your desired job or internship in sports. So they want you to come to their office hours and talk to them. And that's what I would do. And I would tell them what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. And they would give me advice. And I feel like that was really how I got started. I don't know exactly how I met you, though, Professor Burke. I think through Fink, probably.
Yeah, and then when you came to class,
yeah,
we started to connect, and Parul has spoken in my class numerous times, talking to students, and she's really done a great job. And, you got a lifetime contract with me to speak to my students because she's done such a great job. But I mean, I would say from my point of view, I see part of my role is not only to teach a class, but also do the best I can to help students succeed. So don't be shy. If you're interested in something and you think I might know somebody, I'd be more than happy. It's a lot of times it's not a matter of, can you get me a job? It's, do you know anybody in this industry? And if I do, I'll say, let me put you two together and you could have an informational interview and you can start that process. Because in my opinion, an informational interview can be the same as a job interview if you make an impression with the person that's interviewing you. The hope is they're going to be impressed and they're going to say, I have a couple people that I want you to meet. And so then you start the networking process. But as far as I'm concerned, I want people to come up to me and say, can you help? I want them to look on different job boards to see available jobs, which you have to apply online, and come back and ask me, do you know anybody there? So maybe my resume can be put up on the top of the list. So I think that's a requirement for, I know a lot of professors might not feel that way, but I certainly do.
Right, and I think it's important to get to know the person. But certainly, what I've heard, what I've experienced is, if you go in and you simply talk about your interests, right, and feel it out from there. Very often, people will offer. I'm sure, Professor Burke, if I walked in your office and started explaining, that I was interested in a particular industry area and I'd done some of my own research and I'd really like to learn more, right? That's how some of those conversations get started. Is, oh, I happen to know somebody. Maybe you should talk. Maybe you can find out more about what it's like to work here or there in this area.
Professors are human beings, and they gravitate towards students who are hungry to succeed and want to do the right things and are doing the right things. And as a professor, you want to do everything in your power to help them. And like you say, Jen, especially if they're reaching out to you.
Right. So don't be shy, and if you run into a professor that's not as receptive, well, try again. Rutgers is a really big place. And part of networking is being persistent, right? And the reality is there are many, many, many people out there who want to help you, whether it's alumni, professors, etc. So I see we've run over time a little bit, so I should officially close this out. I don't think we have any additional questions coming in right now, but I would like to thank everybody for joining us today. I really would love to thank you both for your time and for sharing so much of your insights on the industry. We're going to have these recordings up on the website and up on the FAS YouTube channel as well for people who want to watch it later. So thank you again, and I look forward to connecting later on. And check out the Career Explorations Arts and Sciences class in Sport Management. It's going to be great.
Thanks, Jen, for inviting us. Parul, we'll talk.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
And thank you, Stacy and Nicole. Great.
Of course, nice to meet you both.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.